So I welcome all the participants for the third session of day 4 of the faculty development program on IoT, product design, development and implementation. Today we have with us an expert, Mr. Anil Dhangar, who is going to deliver a talk on cloud leveraging cloud computing for IoT. Let me introduce our today's expert. Mr. Anil is an alumni of Government College of Engineering, Jalgaon. Presently, he is working with Rakuten Japan as a cloud platform product manager. He is an expertise in product strategies and execution in products across various IT infrastructure, cloud platform services, cloud native networking, and application security. The different key roles includes product management dealing with global clients, stakeholders, markets, with hands-on technology, then product development, pre-scale complex solution, and customer solution engineering in cloud and managed services business. He has over the 12 years of experience in the uh, cloud domain. So I hope his knowledge and experience will help the participant to understand the role of cloud computing in the IoT and will help them in developing their IoT products. So with this, I would like to stop here and I request our today's expert to start with this session. Mr. Anand, please.
Yeah. Thank you, Praveen and SS GMC for inviting me and providing this wonderful platform and giving the opportunity to share my uh, bit of knowledge and then experience about the IoT. So today I'm going to talk about more of like how to leverage the cloud computing basically for IoT, uh, Internet of Things, and we'll walk through you through the journey of like how uh, the cloud computing is going to be leveraged from the data point of view, because cloud is all about dealing with the data and computing. So I will brief you about the how the data is going to get play a important role for the IoT platform or IoT technology, and that will bring you the knowledge about how cloud can scale the millions or trillions of the devices at a time, and to do the predictive analytics, to do the preventive maintenance of your uh, industrial setup, or your private jet, or there are a number of devices that you can play around. So let's quickly start on this journey. uh, so we'll start with the prerequisite for this course. Basically, the audience needs to be familiar with IoT, and as well as in general about the IoT concepts about the cloud. And yeah, that's not much. So yeah, you are all welcome to have this session and then uh, have this knowledge for your FDP program. Let's talk about how IoT devices generally generate the data. Uh, the devices that will store and transmit data to some sort of centralized storage system. So we have millions of this today, perhaps hundreds of them you see in your daily life basis. There are phones, there are cameras, drones, smartwatches, automobiles, anything that absorbs and processes data and retransmits data to some sort of central device. So keep in mind that IoT devices are all around and they are systemic. So ultimately, this is about connecting things. It's very cool that we have some device, it's able to process information such as smartphone or even the computers in our car, but the ability to those devices to transmit information to some other type of central computer and aggregate the data and share the data and respond to the data is where the value of internet of things comes. ultimately, this is going to be about not only dealing with the devices that pick up the data and transmit the data to a central source, but that happens at that central source, specifically in the cloud. So cloud computing becomes one of the most viable topic and target that these devices can connect with. Therefore, IoT and cloud computing are tightly coupled. So this is about like um, transmit of information, aggregation, sharing the data, and responding to the data. So this happens from your local device all the way to your cloud. So you process the information in cloud. Before that, you store it in local device. Thanks for the non-volatile memory that stores the data in local device, and as well as it can be able to transport the central server in the cloud or in the on-premise. Moving on to the next. So when we are talking about the data, so the Internet of Things, specifically how it works with cloud computing, is really all about the data production and what do you do with that data. So this session is largely going to focus on the devices that sends things back to the cloud-based systems and the cloud-based systems that may in turn control the aspects of those devices. So here, as an example, a drone transmitting information to some sort of central computer on the cloud. Now the drone may have the data that is native to that drone, such as navigation data. So it stays on the course, and the ability to respond to the things such as object in front of it. So that it can avoid the collision, but the ability to take the images and videos from that drone, for example, or some sort of farmer's field, to look at water saturation and transmit those images to central server, is really where the power of IoT is. So how to leverage this data, basically? So this is going to be local data storage, remote data storage. So this is about leveraging the data. We may have local storage, which occurs at the device, and then certainly the power of non-volatile memory, as I mentioned. Today we can store the gigabytes, sometimes petabytes of information on the devices that can fit on the palm of your hand. But this is also about storing information in some sort of remote system, typically existing on cloud computing, but it can also be proprietary on-premise system. So at some place that has some sort of network connection that can receive, store, and organize the data. So cloud database have tendency to be preferred technology for this, considering that the fact that there are already connected devices, they are pervasive, and they are able to, in essence, scale up to high as we need them for scale up. We have to do something with the data, let's say, and then it comes to the analytics part, and we have to deal with the business intelligence services, such as the ability to look at the information that coming back from the logistic, for example, in terms of the efficiency of the truck drivers moving across the India based on the devices that place in the truck, which are IoT devices that transmit data back to centralized server, and also the ability to take on the spatial systems such as artificial intelligence and machine learning based systems, so we can feed this information into those processes and how values that come out. So the ability to understand the data, understand the patterns, and make the conclusions about what patterns artificial intelligence systems can find. And oh, can you see my screen, Praveen?
Yes, your screen is there.
Is it in presentation mode?
Yeah, it is in. I'm giving you your screen. The slide is there, leveraging IoT data.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, sorry. So I was talking about the ability to deal with the simple operations, such as I'm able to, in a sense, automate the maintenance of the factory robot, and robots may because they are transmitting the information back to the some sort of central server, and we can dispatch maintenance engineer to lubricate the things, change uh, changes the components of the self-diagnosed problems. So the application of these are limitless. So keep in mind, uh, we are reacting to the trends and real-time events. So the value here with IoT and cloud computing is that we are able to, in a sense, react to something that's occurring now that needs immediate attention. You may say that a jet engine is failing, and within the jet, we want to notify pilot and the onboard systems that something is occurring that needs to taken care of, and also the ability to transmit the data to some sort of central server which has the power to perform things such as predictive analytics at the same time. And the jet engine failure may have been spotted because that becomes sort of behavior has occurred in last, let's say, 1 to 15 flights that matches the behavior that really looks uh, at the fact that something would be failing. So this is like uh, how this data we are going to leverage basically. And so the focus is of IoT is on data, and how do we leverage the IoT data from, say, factory device, let's say. We have the, as an example, so IoT data that comes from that device. It can be any number of things in terms of maintenance schedule, in terms of how efficiently the arms are processing, how much heat is being spun off, the temperature of different joints of the robot, any number of things that are pertaining to the maintenance of the robot. So therefore, we have some sort of operations understanding and analytical understanding. So I can look at the console of the robot and figure out the temperature, the efficiency, the power consumption, the number of hours that have been on each of the rim motors installed within the robot, and also look at the data and some sort of analytical way. In other words, how to look at the temperature operational characteristic that are always gathering from that robot. Look at the context of a larger analytical database, which may track maintenance of robots, say 10,000 robots over a period of 10 years. So we are able to look at the operational instances of that robot, what that robot is doing currently, but also how it exists in the context of data that may be gathered from the thousands of other robots over a time, in terms of what occurred and what outcomes we can expect. For example, the temperature is been too high for a couple of days, and we know that maybe time for new cooling system to be installed, or if we may uh, figure out that the cooling system not necessarily going to solve a problem if the temperature is in the factory has been going up over a time. All these things needs to be taken into consideration. So this particular operational side and the analytical side, we also have to, we also have a need to be able to log the data from the operational standpoint and then understand the outcomes. So keep in mind, if you are gathering the data, we are looking what data led up to some outcome that occur, lead up to failure or lead up to success, and ultimately if we are getting an outcome that is failure or success, we are looking at the number of parameters that may have lead up to that failure or success, and that's the matter of operational data, which is log. Analytics is all about predictions, the ability to, in a sense, to use the historical data, in this case maintenance and outcomes for factory level robots, as to what was its success or what was it failure. Typically the focusing on we focusing on the failures. We know that are certain number of parameters, if these are set and are going to have certain percentage of chance that the robot is going to fail in a particular way, the ability to predict that means we can go off and maintain and prevent the operational outages from the robot, because we are proactively able to figure out issues before they becomes the issues. So maintenance steps in you can leverage those productions to make sure that the robot operates at highest efficiency without any number of outages, and if outages does occur, how to repair robot in very efficient way. So this is like all the way right from the factory devices, how we are going to leverage the data first, and what we are going to achieve out of different analytical and predictions of that data by applying different parameters. So this talks about particularly it's more of a data generated from the factory devices, how we are using that data, and how we are using that data for different operational outcomes that we can save from the breakdowns of systems and factories. Next is like IoT provides the dashboard. So I shown you here the dashboard, the sample dashboard. So basically, um, you need to keep in mind that we are also externalizing the data to the dashboard. So that's typically gonna be human consumption. This may be an computer screen, maybe on a console on the device itself, in our case robot, or this may be something that externalized to a cell phone or pad computer, any number of ways. But uh, that provides meaning of information that is coming from these devices in some way that humans can consume them and react to them. So very much like that, the business intelligence dashboards, we are looking at the data that is coming from the IoT devices, and it could be any number of purposes. In a way, it's most meaningful to a person who is looking at the dashboard. So this is basically we are leveraging the dashboard for the human consumption, and then we use that data uh, for the various purposes, operational consumption. Next on, I would like to touch on the point basically on the data. When it comes to the data, then there are two locations of the data. One could be your local device, and then other could be your uh, central computer or the central server. So how is edge computing is related to cloud computing and IoT in general? So we'll talk about that. So you need to understand that is about the balancing of processing at an IoT device and then centralized server. Typically exists in the cloud-based platform. So the reason we move some processes to the edge or within the IoT device is that ultimately it may be more effective and faster, either from the cost efficient point of view, or just from overall efficiency point of view, to keep the information stored on the device, such as within the jet planes, let's say, as the ability to react to some sort of engine issues, and as well as it's good to transmit that information back to the central server. So we can train that information or data over time, and obviously that is going to require that those people's on board and computers on board to take note of that issue and repair it as soon as possible in case there is any breakdown is predicted from that data on the jet engine. So yeah, so this is about moving data and processing much closer to the source than if sending everything to the some sort of central computer. So it's good to use cloud computing for higher and processing. In other words, the things that require a lot of horsepower, such as predictive analytics and machine learning technology. But it's not necessary to transmit every piece of data from the IoT device to the cloud, and therefore some sort of processing can occur at the source or within the computer or within the IoT device. Next is like allowing the devices to take some operational processing. So the ability to let the IoT device take some operational processing is be able to provide us with a couple of benefits. Like number one, If the network goes down and we are disconnected from the central computer, the device can be continue processing from a time, even though it can't send data to be trended to the central computer. It still can react to the issues it needs to react to, such as thermostat that sits in your wall, and even though it's much more valuable to you if it's connected to some sort of backend processor, so it can make intelligent adjustment to your temperature within your house to minimize your electricity bill each month. It still needs to run if for some reason the network connection goes down. So this is like, uh, even if there is a disconnection on the network side, but the local device can itself take the actions from the data it process. So it is really important to uh, consider the local edge computing use cases into your design considerations. Next is like we can see the examples of edge and cloud, what exactly the stacks on the technology sides. So edge and cloud both have the operating systems, data storage, APIs, and application. So within an edge computing and a cloud-based system is really kind of looking at what's there. So both have a couple of things common, like as I mentioned. Both have the operating systems, and typically the edge-based devices, it could um, be IoT version of Linux, like for the OS, or Android operating systems, and the cloud can have the operating systems as well, typically Linux or Windows NT. They both leverage the data storage. They both use application programming interface to communicate inside and outside of themselves, and they both have applications that run on them to keep in mind that an edge-based device, even though it may be inexpensive and typically not powerful as server that sits on the cloud-based system, it's going to have a lot of same characteristic. It's going to have ability to store data, to process information, to respond fairly quickly, and as technology matures and then progresses, the edge devices are becoming more powerful. Just look at the evolution of cell phone that you have in your pocket. It's very different from 10 years ago, right? So this is similar, that this technology is maturing, and it is going step by step, and it is evolving from the application point of view, from the how the software is taking place on the OSS side, on the data, how we store that, how we process that, all those sort of things. Next is when we are talking about the age, um, then there is another aspect, how we can scale this data and its scalability from the cloud point of view. So the cloud provides the advantage of scalability. So the reason that the cloud is even in this equation is because we know that the cloud won't run out of resources. So if we send 10 petabytes of data, which is spinning on an IoT system, we may have millions of devices out there. They are gathering the information, even though they are processing some of the information at the device in an edge computing type fashion. Most of the information is going to be sent to some sort of backend system, and we are typically going to pick cloud computing system to do that because of the elasticity or the scalability of the cloud solution. In other words, it's typically not going to run out of resources because of virtually unlimited resources. We can deploy as many of devices, or we can register as many of the devices and store their data in the cloud, and we can scale and scale down is completely elastic. So we can provision as much storage or as much of compute as we need, and so that's why we do so for the cloud side, to leverage cloud for the IoT. I hope by this time this sets you the ground to look at the cloud as an alternative solution from some local on-premise server to the cloud when you are dealing with the large volume of devices, and then large volume of data that you want to process on, that you want to do the predictive analytics. You want to uh, create the actions from that data in real-time situations, as like to control the thermostat temperature based on the parameters that you are monitoring from the factory devices. Moving on to how this IoT clouds are as an options available. So why is IoT and public clouds couple? Why are they dependent to one another? So, well, this is like ultimately have certain patterns or things they do very well. Examples would be Amazon Web Services, uh, Azure, Microsoft, and Google Platform. There are other a number of other public cloud providers platforms as well. You may have one that's different from the ones you see here, and yeah, there are like IBM or other prominent players in this cloud space to provide you the platform to process your data and host your data. If you take a look at Amazon Web Services, then it's let's say it provides you the AWS IoT as a solution. It provides you the AI capabilities and then the analytical capabilities as well, which are native to that cloud. So they know that IoT is going to be important part of computing, and they have certain services out there that are able to maximize their ability to provide value to IoT based applications. When I say native, then native means they have proprietary softwares and platforms and solutions and features. So it is indigenously developed for the AWS cloud, and the cloud associated services can be integrated within the AWS cloud, as like having the database or a simple notification service and things like that. If we take example for Azure as an function or as an data, yeah, it also provides similar functions. Azure also provides you the IoT framework and then artificial intelligence and then analytics. So they may be different in brand and what they do, but you will find that a lot of them have the patterns are exactly the same. So as I mentioned, you will have this kind of uh, functions and features available on Azure, on Google, but the backend platform, the protocols, the stack is native to that provider. Similar way, if you take the example of Google, we have cloud IoT, we have artificial intelligence, which is built into Google, as well as the data analytics, which is built on the Google Cloud Platform. So, which ones you leverage really should depend on your requirements, and keep in mind that there is no hard and fast rule for about you just leveraging the one. Indeed, many organizations leverage one or two or three or more. It's called multi-cloud. So it totally goes with your requirement how you want to leverage the cloud platforms based on your organization's need and requirements. You can leverage one or two or three, or you can leverage the multi-cloud platforms for this. As an example, I would like to again touch base on the drone uh, as an example how this drone as a device which is linked to a public cloud service. So I may have to I may have a IoT based applications which is built in particular drone that may be overflying a farmer's field to determine soil hydration, and the device itself has its own set of processing such as navigation and keeping the drone in flight, as well as when to take pictures and what to take pictures of, and we are transmitting that uh, back that data back to some sort of public cloud service which is aware of the IoT system. In this case, the operating system and the format of that system, and even has a pre-built applications for leveraging image processing. In the case to process the hydrogen saturation for farmers field, so they are able to work and play well together. The device is aware that the public cloud are around, and the clouds are aware that the device is around. And obviously the ability to support specific device really depend on the public cloud that you are picking. So the usefulness of cloud services: the cloud service that includes artificial intelligence system or machine learning system, those are how we can make sense of the gobs of data that are coming from the IoT devices. The business intelligence system, or the ability to do things such as predictive analytics or predictive maintenance system cycles, or really kind of predicted outcomes of the information that we see coming off an IoT device, such as health informatics or information, or that's information coming off to some device that is attached to our bodies that needs to alert the physician because some sort of an issue is occurring. And of course the data, the ability to have the databases which is be able to deal with the petabytes plus amount of information, be able to process the data quickly and efficiently, and be able to make sense of the data no matter whether it's structured or unstructured, and the ability to integrate all these things together. Keep in mind that a core feature of linking cloud-based systems to IoT-based systems is the ability to efficiently integrate those systems. Obviously, systems that are out and about on very weak Wi-Fi networks in some instances, communications with Bluetooth in other instances, on older networks that may be part of factory, have to have some resiliency built in them in terms of how information is going to be processed from source to target, be able to deal with all sort of issues and do so in efficient ways. Next is I'm picking IoT platform of AWS uh, to share more about the cloud and how we are going to design, build, and deploy and operate. And then we can see some a brief demo, and then we can move on next to how the cost considerations and other considerations to be taken place when you are designing the IoT based cloud platform and cloud solution, IoT solution. So here on the Amazon Internet of Things or IoT platform, you have few core activities that take place. First is like we are able to connect and manage the device, and again an IoT device can be a mobile phone or sensor, or it can be a drone, it can be anything that produces data, but typically it's not going to be traditional computer system. So it's be able to act on the device data or data produced by the device in the IoT system, and uh, it's be able to manage the device or communicating the state of device state. To keep in when we talk about the IoT and the public cloud computing, we are oftentimes talking about the paid resources that are very much like in the IoT device or in the public cloud. So how it works: it provides direct connectivity to the device, and ultimately device needs to be synergetic with Amazon Web Service IoT. This is a symbiotic relationship. Their ability to produce information from the device and then push information back to the device. The ability to consume information into the AWS IoT, and then the ability to produce the data out of the AWS IoT. So it's be able to monitor and manage the device, and as the state and what their activities is. Keep in mind that the devices have to be managed and they have to be a wealthy connectivity. Then security becomes an important aspect. Um, and it is an important issue also to address when there are any vulnerabilities or any uh, volumetric attacks or DDoS attacks. So it's be able to bring the security level system, ensuring that the data is not compromised. And ultimately, directory services with devices that are registered and managed. So your device going to be registered on the AWS IoT system, and it needs to be registered in terms of the certificates and in terms of the authentication that you are going to manage these devices virtually on the cloud. And last one is like the ability to deal with the governance system, such as creation of the rules and policies. So here we will talk about the how this complete setup looks like in from the device to the all the way to AWS IoT, and all the way how the further AWS IoT services that we can leverage. So in the design, at the edge side you have the devices, and then you have the SDK, so that this is the architecture look like. Well, let's start with the device and device himself, and that are typically communicated using the SDK or software development kit with the things with Amazon Web Services. We also have IoT applications that can be created with the Amazon Web Services, and they in turn can communicate with the message broker, which is be able to carry information to the engines and to the databases that going to be receive and process the data. So note that the information consumed into the message broker, it sends the device shadow, which basically an analog of the device sits in the AWS IoT subsystem, and it's be able to communicate directly to the rules engine as well. And when uh, it's processed through the number of various systems that are exist in the Amazon Web Services public cloud, including DynamoDB, Kinesis, Lambda serverless system, S3 for storage, and then machine learning. So what does this mean is that we are able to take any number of devices, consume information from those devices, and we are able to manage the movement of information through message brokering system into rules engine and instances and points, creates the movement of various sources and target systems that go into the various processing points within the Amazon Web Services public cloud. And if look at this various systems, this is just an instance, for example, on the right hand side of what's available of Amazon Web Services that allows us to process the information directly from the IoT device. We have identity access management in essence to to systematically to most of this, and then the ability to create the analog devices to the device shadows within the IoT systems as well. So this is like showing the end-to-end data flow, how the data is going to pass through from the different components of from the field devices all the way connected to the message broker in the IoT system, and how the rules engine and device shadows and then access and identity management playing a role, importantly from passing the data from the devices to the different uh, Amazon Web Services that we want to integrate and process the data for or store the data, or do the machine learning pattern analysis and trending the data and do the predictive analysis on the data in real time. Next is when we talk about the rules, I will touch base on the rules basically on the AWS IoT. So keep in mind that Amazon is big services in IoT, um, and its ability to create and manage the rules. So in doing the rule creation and the management, we are able to deal with any number of rules that are exist within the different point systems. For instance, we can create an Amazon DynamoDB rule, which is of course within the database, and we can create the rules within the serverless systems such as AWS Lambda. and we can create a rule using Amazon native services such as SNS or simple notification service. So I hope our audience understand a bit about these services. So Amazon Lambda is basically allowing and scaling your computing needs uh, so that any application can scale up in real time without having to manually create the resources in cloud for the application to run. And same goes for the simple notification service. So you can configure the triggers. Let's say for thermostat, the temperature is crossing the threshold, and you want to set the simple notification service for the stakeholders like the engineer or the facility or utility manager locally in the factory, or so some sort of notifications that you want to send it to the critical members of the system, so before it breaks down or somebody needs to take care of. So these are the systems and services that Amazon allows you to configure and integrate with your IoT system data in real time. So once you create the, let's say you store the data, and you process the data by triggering the this kind of services. Next, uh, let's talk about the AWS IoT software development kit build. So the AWS IoT software development kit is really core to a lot of this. So using Amazon Web Services IoT, we can be able to embed the various systems into applications using the software development kit. So the data is that we provide the tools for developers to leverage what is needed to be leveraged to be build IoT based capabilities within the application systems, and themselves we can use an IoT device and SDK for JavaScripts, Python, or other systems that are native to the Amazon Web Service. So I will show you how to register the device in the Amazon IoT platform, and how to select the platform, and then the SDK for for your device, local device, to build and configure. Next is on this point only. So ultimately, this is allows developers to customize the utilization of IoT based systems within the AWS enable applications, and very much like the software development kits that proceeds the software development, and it provides the basics to expand the customize and customize to build the exact business features. So there are open source libraries that are included into the SDK, and ability to expand this SDKs to customize it for particular needs. For example, you may be building an IoT based systems to communicate with the robotic systems that leverage some sort of proprietary languages, and you need to create an SDK to communicate using that proprietary language. This provides you with those kind of capabilities. Um then we just talk about the complete design aspect from the software development point of view. What are the design considerations needs to be taken care, and and if we move on, then design, build, and then how we are going to deploy it. So how to deal with the deployment for IoT based systems under AWS? We'll have to deal with the provisioning. So within the AWS, we have the notion of device provisioning, which can be done with the provisioning templates, or basically ways in which we can predefine the configurations, how we can configure and deploy device. We can do some programmatically. In other words, the ability to build programmatic features to automate the movement or the provisioning of the device that are deploying IoT based applications. We are able to do it in just in time way, where we can sense a need and stand up the device just in time ahead of the need of the IoT systems, or the ability to do them in the bulk. For example, I'm rolling out, let's say, 10,000 devices. I need to do so rather. I can quickly do it in bulk provisioning and be able to leverage the pre-built plans or roll out many devices and then applications and deploy them as I need it. So keep in mind, this provides us the flexibility to do the device and IoT applications. deployment in either the fine grain way or cross going way at the pace that we want. This gives you the complete setup as you need kind of templates to provision your devices. Next is after deployment, how you are going to operate this device or the solution or the complete platform. So in the IoT based systems and the Amazon Web Services particularly, uh, a few things need to keep in mind. The first and foremost is the ability to monitor what's going on. And so if we are going to monitor, we need different tools to deal with the monitoring capability, the ability to watch things at the device level or the centralized server level. So we have the ability to use tools that are native to Amazon Web Services, such as Amazon CloudWatch. Basically, this is going to be the monitoring tool you can configure for your IoT devices, and you can keep the alerts going on from the CloudWatch. So when I say the native, yeah, it's basically developed on the particular platform, and it supports on the AWS platform only, this particular application. The monitoring is a common function, so you can have similar common function develop in Azure, or you can have similar common functions develop in Google. Next is like how we can use this existing native logging capabilities such as monitoring CloudWatch logs, and we can also use the AWS IoT API calls using AWS CloudTrail. The ability to leverage native tools, in essence, the to monitor and to manage our IoT enabled applications. So how it is solving the problems? So how do we solve operational issues related to the troubleshooting by doing the troubleshooting? So, well, we have to deal with the troubleshooting capabilities as well, and we need to understand that the IoT based systems are particularly problematic considering the fact that they have devices that can go offline, very low power networks, very low power computers, and they typically exist in remote locations where things can happen like power outage, things like that. So we can do troubleshooting to these systems. Well, we need to diagnose the connectivity issues such as when the network is not working up to the speed. Need to be able to deal with the issues around how we are deploying and manage the rules within the applications, and ultimately the ability to deal with the shadow device within the AWS system. And keep in mind that typically is going to be a replica of the device application that's actually running within the IoT device, but it's running on the cloud. So this particularly, this is why we are calling it as a shadow. And so we can determine a few things by managing and monitoring that applications. But we need to also diagnose the problems, be able to repair them if needed, and the ability to deal with the Salesforce actions issues, the ability to deal with how the devices are running correctly out in the field, the ability to deal with the security issues, the ability to deal with the governance issues. This all comes back into the world of troubleshooting. So keep in mind that this is the matter of monitoring these environments to understand exactly what's going on, including keeping the logs, but also having the capabilities to automate the troubleshooting or to repair with the issues that are going to run into when building an IoT based systems in Amazon Web Services. Uh, Next is I will show you some considerations, and then I can move on to uh, the demo part. So when you are designing the IoT based system, what are the things that you need to also take in consideration from the business point of view or from the commercial point of view, and also the performance, and then how you are going to operate and operations point of view, and then security point of view. So so when we talk about the performance, then the device it has a tendency to underpower and the network has a tendency to be under power. So both has a kind of tendency to be under power. So we have sensor gathering the data. We have to consume the data from sensors ongoing. Once the information is consumed, have to stored in at some place. Data have to be transferred from one place to another, from sensor of the IoT devices or to some remote server. We have to deal with the remote cloud data storage server and then process the information on the public cloud and respond to the data pulled back from the server in order to carry on some event driven activity. That's what it determines overall IoT service performance. The chain of things that occurs where the lowest performing things in the chain determines the overall performance of your IoT system. So it can be your sensor which has low power, or it can be your data which has the ability to consume and transmit to the central location. So the network can be another important aspect to understand. And when we say the guide for the performance, what could be the guidance for us to look at to determine or to understand the performance issues within the complete chain? So let's talk about that. So ultimately, the rules of thumb is to consider where the device is and what is the bottleneck that needs to be fixed for the particular device level data to be transmitted to the central location. We need to consider the infrastructure, including the network infrastructure. Also, we need to consider how we are going to balance the computing. Some things we need to consider to put there on the remote cloud-based systems, and some things on the local device in the edge computing kind of scenario. We got to think how we can have just an enough security to provide security that's needed. Too much of security, such as to use maximum encryptions on the data, that can also cause the performance issues. Then ultimately, before we deploy system, we need to have benchmark and testing in order to understand how the issues are in terms of overall IoT system performance going to impact or affect our architecture, and where things needed to be changed and fixed. So I just this will just give you the brief about what are the things needs to be considered on the high level. Next is when it comes to the cost. About the IoT, so IoT-based systems of the cloud, we need to consider the few major cost points. The cost of device itself, how much is the cost to build and deploy and maintain, how much is the cost of the device as its operating system and application software. Ultimately, we have to see how information is being transferred from the device into the public cloud, and the networks for the IoT-based systems, such as cellular networks, and can be fairly this can be very fairly costly affair when it comes to the cellular networks. And then we have resources, cloud side of things. How much is the cost of cloud resource that we need to stand out, such as the IoT-based systems, the database systems, security-based systems, and things like that. And then when how much is the system cost to operate, and that will get you close to the total IoT cost going forward. So you need to understand and you need to keep in mind that what we combine is the cost of the device, the cost of the cloud, and the cost of the connectivity. These are all basic aspects to take into consideration when you are considering the cost aspect or cost-driven approach. Next, we can talk about the guide. So the rule of thumb is are fairly straightforward. Um, Leverage on edge computing if you can. In other words, you can go and find the cheapest processing and processing that is going to be sunk cost that you already paid for the device itself. And so therefore the use of edge computing as much as possible, so you can just leverage the processings for processing the things on the device, such as much as much as you can leverage the device itself. So keep in mind, you don't have to send every bit of information back to the remote cloud platform. Transfer only the data you need to send. And also need to keep in consideration that if the information is going to be stored in the same place for more than once, that gonna cost you money. So any replication of data that you see or duplication of data over the cloud, that is going to cost you money. So have detailed eye for the devices data that you are storing in, and based on your needs that you need to take consideration. You need to also make sure you are leveraging systems such as cloud cost governance, the ability to monitor not only the cost that's occurring into the cloud-based systems, but the governance of overall system into itself, the network, the device, the cloud-based systems. So we know how we are paying now and how certain configurations can change and can save us or cost us money. That should be completely visible to you. So using the cloud-based IoT system platforms, you can leverage there, and then you can use these configurations changes and then governance models into the cloud. We will talk about the IoT operations basically. So the IoT operations, and then approaching IoT operations with some best practices in mind. So, so take in consideration that IoT ops have several components we have to deal with. We have to deal with the business continuity and disaster recovery, or basically how we are going to create fail-safe aspects around our IoT systems if our system goes down, or how our systems is going to take over and keeps things running. Ultimately, your ability to look at different aspects of security and that how that relates to operations. Keep in mind that then effective security approach is something that going to build synergistically with SecOps or security operations in mind. Ultimately, how we are going to keep the networks up and running. You need to understand the IoT systems are typically dealing with the fairly fragile and expensive networks, such as cellular networks, as I mentioned earlier, and your ability to operate and run them is going to be vital to keep your IoT systems up and running. Uh, Next is about the management, how things you gonna be managed and leverage using different tools such as AI ops to make sure things are up and running, and then having various proactive monitoring operations, ensuring that we are seeing what are all things happening with the within the IoT systems, and ensuring that if we are seeing if these are going wrong, or we are able to set up and correct them as quickly as we can. Then also looking at certain things that are special in terms of their needs, are special purpose systems. You will find that IoT operations are typically almost always having special purpose kind of components, such as medical systems that have to deal with critical information displays, the ability to manage personally identifiable information, or PII. So this special requirements require special operational considerations. They need to be built into the processes. So this is giving you the operational aspects um, uh, tenets to understand from that point of view. What are all things that you need to consider? These are all aspects that you need to keep in mind when you are designing the operational setup for the IoT based solution or platform. Next, I would like to talk about the IoT security. And the special needs of security systems in IoT environment. So when we look at what the core of the IoT security is, we have to consider the fact that we are dealing again with the notion of the identities. The identities of the devices, identities of data, or identities of cloud-borne databases. Basically, all aspects of the systems have some sort of identities that we need to track of, and we keep the track of identities within the directory services such as LDAP or Active Directory or proprietary records. In other words, we are tracking each identity and how they are able to interact one to another, and how we are restricting them or de-restricting them. Next is the encryption. It gives you the ability to deal with the encryption services such as hiding information that's flowing from the device to the backend cloud-based systems. The ability to manage those identities with the identity access management system, basically configuring and reconfiguring the identities so based on their authorization and relating them so certain devices and data points and not others. Also to manage the security at the device level, so you need to keep in mind that these devices exist remotely and they may not be guarded full time, so they may not be even be within the secure infrastructures. So how we gonna deal with devices with those sort of exposures? Then also the record then also the cloud-based securities, we need to have the good so we have the good news here basically from the cloud-based securities, is that we have the pretty good and well known setup and the best practices in dealing with the public cloud-based security systems. The bad news is we don't have a lot of existing experiences in dealing with the cloud-based security, as it tied with the IoT based security and ability to deal with the vulnerabilities that may come from the IoT side of the house. So going forward, you can find that a lot of new security services and new best practices that are emerging, but typically going to be new and unproven. So these are the things that when it comes to the IoT security, by this time it is all new frameworks of the security and policies and governance that you can attach to your device, and you can leverage the encryptions associated over the transmission channel from the device to all the way to the public cloud networks and then public cloud systems. However, this is not yet fully proven, but as a cloud native services like computing or domain name servers or services that you can use from the clouds, these are all well and proven practices already implemented by cloud providers there. So this is going to be matured over the period of time in coming times. Next is I was quite referring few times about the IoT governance. So let's talk about that. The main thing to think about an IoT governance as related to IoT security, that is the fact that the governance is about limiting the access to certain things. Basically, putting the guardrails around accessing resources such as a device or a piece of data. Well, security is around restricting access to governance. So governance is security is actually restricting the access to the resources, and governance is about dealing with the putting limitations or granular limitations around accessing certain resources. Typically security is dealing with the restrictions. So as an example, I would like to give example. So 100% denial of access to any resources is quite kind of example of security. But providing the limited access, like let's say view or read or write access, that's going to be part of your governance policies. So in dealing with IoT governance, we are dealing with the policies, and policies are the rules that we write that determines how we are going to access the particular resources, such as the time and day, such as the ability to limit the performance of the resources to particular utilization or anything that needs to be placed into production to ensure that we are not abusing an IoT system components. We also have to have links with the security, so we know that we are not advertising or adverting security to some sort of governance link or some sort of policy restrictions. The ability to govern the data down at the data level, the attributes level, and then ability um, to deal with the network components, as well as ultimately enhance its limits to access to certain subnet to certain times of the day, and ensuring that we are not overutilizing particular network requirements. And then ability to govern the software and who's be able to use it and what they are able to use it for, and other aspects around as well. So we need to keep in mind that the IoT is going to be fairly diverse set of applications with different special purposes. So I'm sure you are thinking of yourself about the IoT governance comes handy in terms of putting different policies restrictions around accessing different resources, so different piece of data and different APIs. So this is about governance that I want to describe you. uh, I would like to show you the demo for from IoT core, how to register the device. This will be a very short demo. So before that, I would like to check with you guys if you have any questions so far around this. We can then start the demo, and we can then conclude the session. Praveen, over to you.
Dear participants, if you have any questions regarding up till now, so you can ask to our expert. Let me give a chance to all the participants. Now I have given a right to unmute yourself. Dear participant, you can unmute yourself and you can ask the question to our expert. If you have any questions or doubts or any opinions regarding this topic. Okay. Mr. Anil, I think there is no question from the participants. Yeah. I have a few questions
Mhm.
regarding. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, Praveen.
Yeah. There is a necessity of using the cloud in the IoT?
Your question is a need of or necessity of using the cloud in the IoT.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So when it comes to the real-time environments, like you want to use a simple notification service, or you want to use the large amount of data to do the analytics and predictive analytics, and then uh, do the beforehand maintenance of your systems or your fleet. Let's say you are running the fleet operations across the India for the transport company, and you want to see your data um, in real time, and also as well as you want to monitor the indicators of your oil level, engine maintenance kind of parameters that you want to monitor, and you will also see the past data to do the predictions of the fleet, that after this time it is going to get breakdown, and that will call for the emergency for the fleet driver, and then it will be in a chaos situation for you to manage that trouble. So when it comes to the IoT gives you handy of applications, tools, and integration services. As I mentioned about the data you can store, the machine learning algorithms that you can run, you can send the notification services, and you can do the machine learning real-time predictive analytics. And this is not for a simple or small setup. When we talk about the fleets, let's say 1,000 2,000 fleets running across India, and you want to monitor that and do such analytics, then this is the cloud that provides you the elastic way, scaling up, scaling down of computing and processing of and storing of the data. So this gives you the benefit of the ecosystem of that cloud leverages. This gives you the benefit of the computing resources that you need on the on-premise devices. On-premise is not allowing you to scale up, scale down elastically. So Lambda like a service, Amazon Lambda like a service, you can configure the analytics and the codes that you want to run quickly just because of some triggers that you configure in the IoT core service. You can quickly run that, and you can just scale down that particular computing resources in serverless computing, so that you can just get billed for that particular duration that Lambda service is running, and you can just it can just close down the service after processing that particular data. So that's how it provides you a lot of other benefits, including cost, including the agility, including the flexibility, and including the ecosystem that running. So Amazon is investing heavily, or like the public cloud providers are investing very heavily in terms of creating a value for the data that it is generating from the devices. So on your on-prem applications, you can have the small scale setup um, to the central location. But when it comes to the global operations, let's say you are running multi-country operation, then it would be very difficult for you to have the infrastructure to collect the data, to process the data, and then send back that data for the certain actions. So when it comes to the scalability, then it becomes sense to use the cloud, that it offers the economy of shared computing, and then as well as security aspects, and then policies and governance, that everything that you can do it on cloud. I hope that answers your question, or are there any questions from your side?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Anil. Is there any question from the participants? Yeah, Mr. Anil, you can go ahead with the demo.
Sure, thanks. So I was already logged into the system. I can start from the basic, like logging out. And then I can log back. So this is the Amazon Cloud Console. So here you can see I'm logged into the AP South region of AWS. So you can search the IoT core here on the console. And you enter into the IoT system. So here are the monitoring capabilities and dashboards that you can leverage based on the connections you made successful, the messages that you publish, rules that you executed, and the protocol rate, or anything that matrices that you gonna monitor from the dashboard. I will show you about how we are going to onboard the device. Here are the like options to onboard many devices and onboard a device. So we will go with the get started. So it gives you the steps to register device, download a kit, and configure the test your device. So we can go and get started. As I mentioned earlier, in the SDK platform, you have the option to choose like Linux, OS X, and then Windows. So here we can select the Linux OS, and then we can select a device level SDK in Python. So here it gives me options to select next. I can give a name like name of the device or things. As a GMC test. Here it shows you the things in the IoT registry we created recently, the policy to send and receive messages. This is the test policies created for us. The connection kit, it contains certificate and private key. The IoT device SDK that we selected for Python, and then script to send and receive the messages, that is start sh. So here we have we have the options to download this SDK. So I'm going to save this SDK here. Let's say this is the zip file that you can download, and then you can install into your device, which can be your Raspberry Pi running Linux, and you can then set up the connection there. So this gives you the steps to unzip the connection kit on the device, then add the execution permissions to your device, and then run the start script, and message from your things will appear below like that. So waiting for your message from your device. So this is going to be like the particular kit that you can download and you can install your device, and you can run and connect to the things here on the AWS IoT platform. So yeah, these are all steps that we have done recently. I'm skipping the device side of the configurations just because of sake of time, and then I haven't prepared for the device side of the configurations. Here I can show you about the certificates and policies. So let's say we have the certificates we have created. So recently we have this certificate, and we have the policies created here. So this is the policy it is showing for us. These are the policies that we have created recently as a GMC test policy. We can attach this policy to the device certificates. So here you can select the actions and attach the policy. So I am selecting SS GMC test policy. It is created now, and I'm attaching it to the certificate. Yeah, we have attached the policy successfully. You can create any policies here, and then you can attach those to the certificates that is going to get installed on your devices. So let's say you have the options to create one-click certificate that is recommended. You have you can upload your own certificates here, and you can register your certificates and use your own certificates for one or more devices that we can start here. So these are the options given here. That's all about that I would like to show you on the Amazon console. It is very intuitive and very easy. It's just that you have to understand the different subsections where you manage your devices and things like that. And yeah, this is about the green grass. This is basically when you are using the edge computing, then this needs to be explore more there for the edge computing point of view from your devices that you are creating edge computing hubs in remote locations. Yeah. um, Over to you, Praveen. This is all about the um, brief demo about the portal itself, and then SDKs can be downloaded and installed into the devices. Any questions on this? Then yeah, we are good to address.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Anand. Yeah, dear participants, hope you understood how the cloud computing is going to help you to leverage your IoT. Is there any questions or any doubts regarding the cloud computing or implementation of cloud computing for IoT? You can unmute yourself and you can ask the question, or you can put in a chat box. Okay, maybe see actually we have almost 6 hours are going on, and hopefully all the participants are going to be tired. So fine. So we'll try to end. We'll let this session is going to be end. So is it free to register device? Yeah, somebody asked the question. Mr.
Um,
Anil. Yeah.
yeah, so from the billing point of view, if devices can be registered, but the messaging is going to be chargeable. So Amazon allows you to register the devices, but when it comes to the fleet operations and when the exchange of messages going in cloud and out of cloud, then it has a chargeable mechanism there.
Yeah.
So there are plenty of resources about learning the AWS IoT. Um, you can start um, from, let's say, Amazon Web Console itself. Amazon has created a lot of content on their web documentation portal. So you can start from the Amazon website itself. There are plenty of contents available on Amazon website itself. Or you can find the courses over Pluralsight or LinkedIn Learning or the Coursera. Those sort of learning platforms are self-paced learning platforms. You can have the subscriptions over there, and then you can start uh, learning more about the IoT services and IoT platforms, specifically in public cloud domain.
Mr. Anil,
Yeah,
is there
yeah.
any criteria to select a particular cloud? Just like you have shown some of the clouds, Azure, IBM is there, you have shown
Google and yeah,
Google
you
is
mean.
there,
So
AWS.
as such, the criteria, as I mentioned about in design consideration, uh, how what are the needs that is there from the requirement point of view for your solution? Are you going to deal in the machine learning side of the things, or do you want to do the analytics on the real time, or those sort of things? In more or less all these cloud providers provides the common functionalities like having the analytics to be run, machine learning to be run, and the store the data, and yeah, the IoT platforms they have created separately, and you can integrate that platform with their own services, other services. So there is no particular kind of constraint or kind of restrictions. You can start and try any public cloud. Prominently, the three main players in the marketplace are Google, Amazon, and Azure. So
Okay.
basically, if you have the larger operations and the volume of data and devices are there, let's say thousands of hundreds of data there, then you can start looking at the options on the cloud side. and also the security aspect. So if you have to rely on the public cloud providers security and you want to outsource that, and you don't have to create the templates for the provisionings, you don't have to think about much on the security and governance and creating the access management rules. So everything can be leveraged from the cloud providers, so they have the ready setup. And if you're already your organizations, let's say, is already using one of the cloud provider setup, let's say Active Directory of Microsoft, you can still leverage those access management rules and policies and things like that from the existing service of the provider, and then you can integrate those rules and then access management policies to your users to be configured and be able to access the cloud IoT solution of let's say Azure.
Okay. You have shown at the time of AWS configuration the different languages, just like Java, Python, and other.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
for the student point of view, what programming language will you suggest?
So basically, in nowadays, if you take a look to the open source platforms and systems, these are all, or even the public cloud providers are using the open source systems, and the base is all Linux. Windows is not much there when it comes to the open source development. When students are focusing on the marketplace in the software development or on the platform development side, then Linux has a huge benefits and then huge coverage in terms of the platforms it is already you know uh, developing.
Okay.
And apart from that, this is the OS side of the development. On the networking side, that Linux provides. Also, on the development of applications, one can still leverage the Java, Node.js, and Python and Java. So these public cloud providers are very clever and intelligently selected these three platforms to be leveraged here for the from the user's point of view. So they found this these are the majority of the developers are using the Node.js, Python, and Java. So I would suggest to go for the Linux on the OS side. One has to have the skills on the Linux, and either of these three, like Python or Node.js, is going to be there in the industry for a long time.
Okay. So thank you, Mr. Anil. Is there any questions from the participants? Okay, I think we don't have any questions from the participants, so we'll stop here. So
Yeah.
thank you,
Thank,
Mr.
thank you very much for inviting me here and giving the opportunity to share the bit of knowledge that I have gained from the industry side. Though we haven't covered the much, just because I would like to touch base on the basic points on the cloud side, why it is required. But still, yeah, we can have the another sessions sometime and explaining detail about the IoT in AWS and things like that. Yeah, thank you very much, Praveen, and thank you very much
Yeah,
participants for your.
it's a pleasure that you have delivered a very nice session on the leveraging cloud computing for the IoT. Yeah, I hope even the basics and most of the things regarding the cloud you explained very well. Hope this is going to be help every participant when they will try to use the cloud computing in their IoT products or the projects. Uh, from the organizers of this faculty development program, that is from the Sri Sindhagajan Maharaj College of Engineering, I would like to thanks Mr. Anil for from his busy schedule. He has given the time and accepted our invitation and delivered a very good session. So thank you, Mr. Anil. Also thanks all the participants who are there from the last 6 hours and listening to all the sessions. So with this, I would like to end the session. Mr. Anil would like to say anything? Uh,
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you very much.
yeah. Now with
We can
this,
conclude.
yeah, thank you, Anil. So with this, now we'll end this session. Thank you all of you for joining this session. Tomorrow
Thank
we
you.
will meet. Yeah, tomorrow we'll meet at 10:30 a.m. We'll have a hands-on sessions. So, if possible, try to get some hardware, that is the ESP32 hardware, so that we can do some hands-on. Even if you do not have a hardware, don't worry. Most of the part of the cloud computing and the Android app development that you can do on a laptop. Those who are using only mobile phone, it is very difficult for them only. So at least try to arrange a laptop or the desktop and to have some hands-on session. So thank you all of you for joining here. We will meet tomorrow at 10:30. Thank you.